Welcome, Vault Dwellers. My name is Nacho Bidness, and that's Cheaty McCheatface. And today we're going to take a look at the settlement at Jamaica Plains. The real-world part of the story here is that Bethesda gave us a decent-sized settlement and then almost completely filled it with these destroyed structures and walls. It is a challenge to build here, mainly because of this one right here. If this one had available interior space to us, I think it'd be a lot easier to get a decent number of settlers in here. But every settlement has its own unique features and challenges, and rather than scrap that building with the scrap Fallout mod, I decided I would just go ahead and keep it in when I was coming through here and upgrading for the video after now that we've got mods. So it's a decent sized space that is almost rectangular, except that one side is kind of cut off at an angle there, and it is small, but we can still fit 20 settlers here and have something that looks pretty cool. So let's go take a look at it. We're in our postman uniform, and it's standing next to a mailbox because the story for my Jamaica Plain has some parallels to a book called The Postman by David Brin. And we're not going to talk about the Kevin Costner movie. In the book, a man is robbed and then subsequently finds a postman's uniform. He puts it on because he's cold, and the people that see him the next day take the uniform that is as a sign that the United States is on its way back. And they are so desperate to believe him and believe that lie that he tells them when he agrees with them, that eventually the lie becomes the truth. And to an extent, that's what's going on at Jamaica Plains. We're going to take a quick look around the outside of the walls, and we're going to do this at night for a couple reasons. One, the folks here have a lot of lights shining out from the walls, and they are really advertising their presence. And I don't normally do that because I try to keep the lighting outside of my settlements somewhat subdued. I kind of think, and you know, there's no gameplay mechanic associated with this, but I kind of think that if you've got a settlement in the waste, you probably don't want to advertise your presence, because all that's going to do is attract raiders and super mutants. But these folks have the moxie, and they've got the guns, and they're willing to defend themselves, and so they advertise. In fact, they have really doubled down on the advertising with Treasures of Jamaica Plain posters all over the place here, because there is still a fairly steady trickle of people that come to this area hoping to find the treasure of Jamaica Plain, and they're usually pretty disappointed to find out that in fact the treasures of Jamaica Plain have already been found, and that there is a guy who is, for a few caps, willing to tell them the story about how it was found and let them do a little bit of art appreciation. Before we get into that, let's go take a look around at kind of the rest of the settlement. This is a roadside stand style shop, and I don't normally go for those, but this is a very compact settlement, and this is a very compact build that it was. I first saw it on the Mad Queen show, or actually No Respawns, who pointed it back to the Mad Queen show. It's kind of a cool looking thing, and it's extremely small, so I decided that I was going to keep it when I came back and played around with this settlement before getting ready to film. This is a little metal prefab shack that also features another thing that I saw in the Mad Queen show, which is this kind of IKEA style double bed. I could have taken that out and put a bunk bed there in its place, but I actually like the way that this looks. This looks like something that somebody might build in the post-apocalypse, and it gives us enough space to jam 2 settlers in here and yet still have a little bit of living space. Mad Queen's a comic book fan, and so we've got some comic book art on the walls inside here. Around the corner there is a guard post for the main gate, and I generally try to put shade over guard posts just because I think about if I was standing up here all day every day keeping watch, I would probably want something to keep the sun off and the rain off and the snow off, and so I'd probably just build something while I was on duty. But there's just not quite enough space here to do that, so went ahead and just left that one as it was. On the other side of our little courtyard here, we've got a doctor's office, which is another variation of roadside stand. I did go ahead and expand it a little bit. I like to put beds in my doctor's offices for a couple reasons. One, it just looks like it's someplace for the doctor to work. Two, since we're short on space here, anything that I can do to kind of get another bed in is a good thing. We've managed to get 20 people here with 20 beds and enough food and water to keep them happy. Doctor has a place to work over here, and there's even a bench for you to sit and wait for him if he's not quite ready to see you. I really did think about scrapping this house since it has no interior space and takes up such a large chunk of the available ground here, but ultimately I went ahead and decided to keep it because building around it is part of the challenge here, and it is such a large part of the character of this settlement. What's inside? Nobody knows, but anybody who's gone inside got sick and died, so they've just warned everyone to keep out. I did use what space is available here to put our chemistry station in so that anyone who wants to make some drugs or maybe even make some medicine has a place to do that. This kind of funky guard shack is something I actually wanted to talk about with regards to style. I spend a lot of time thinking about things that are probably overthinking things. An example here would be decided to put the bed in the corner there instead of under the stairs, because when people would be walking downstairs, maybe mud would be falling off their shoes and stuff, and you wouldn't want that falling on your face in the bed. Having the desk there is probably not the greatest either, but I wanted to put something in that space, and since I already kind of feel like I overuse crates a lot, that's what we came up with. Another thing that I think about is when I do stairs that open onto a roof like this one, a lot of times I like to put a secondary roof over those stairs so that they're not just open to the sky, because if you think about when it rains, for example, you wouldn't necessarily want your building flooding because all the water's coming down the stairs. Got another guard shack here that keeps an eye on the quarry across the way there, and the flooded out buildings over there where a lot of raiders live. If the guy at the front gate is having some trouble, our guard over here can come to this point and back him up. Another thing I'll mention with regards to style is I want to talk about lampposts, because I think that they're really cool, but I try to use them judiciously. Example would be that this one is right on the edge of the street that this wall is built on, and it's the same style as the other lampposts that are scattered around the area outside of the settlement. I feel like lampposts are something that I want to use as kind of a found structure and repurposed structure aesthetic, as opposed to something that the settlers would build and deploy on their own. Over here there's bathrooms because it's Nacho Bidness channel and there's always bathrooms. We're going to go through these apartments here in this combination wall / apartment building, but there's really not much to say about them. I just try to always show complete settlements. So while we go through here, you know, we can keep talking about treasures of Jamaica Plain. Now, I was certainly disappointed when I got to the end of that quest and found out what it actually was, but it was especially because I play a sniper and the melee weapon there was just completely useless to me. But after a little bit, I did have to kind of laugh about it and say, yep, that's Fallout for you, and it makes total sense because, oh, quick note, this one's for rent, and so there's no decoration in it because it's a blank slate for someone to come live here. So anyways, I mean, you think about like your cell phone, or what's that doing there? Your cell phone or your car. Like, your cell phone's completely worthless if there's no cell phone network. Your car has no value if there's no gasoline. So things that we would call treasure or attach value to probably don't have much use after the apocalypse. Up here we've got yet another place for guards and turrets, because it is a prosperous town and it's kind of right smack dab in the middle of raider territory and mutant territory, and so a couple more places for people to keep an eye out for what might be coming their direction. At this one in particular, that switch runs the door that's right underneath my feet right now. Let's go take a look at that. And here again, they are really pushing this Jamaica Plain advertising. I also wanted to show something else over here. That's the back of the stove on the inside of this particular house. I don't know if it was really intended this way or not, but if you're careful when you're placing those, you can actually get the stovepipes to stick through the wall outside of your building, and I think it just adds a nice little extra touch of detail. Let's go take a look at the restaurant. It's Anna's Cafe, and the sign here is another one from Gruffydd Sign Mods, and I've talked about that enough in the past. that if I haven't talked you into downloading that one, I probably never will. Because these folks have a decent amount of money and can do some trading. They do have a fully stocked restaurant here, but just like at Oberlin Station, I don't have a lot of plates and food and bottles and stuff on all the tables, because I feel like if you walk into a restaurant and all the tables are dirty, you're probably just going to turn around and go right back out again. Anna and her family live in the space above the restaurant. They don't have a whole lot, but they do have each other, and they've got this globe, and one of their favorite pastimes is to sit around as a group after the restaurant closes and look at the names on this globe and just kind of wonder, so what is life like in this strange place called Africa? Or what were the Australians like, and what are they like now, 200 years after the Great War? Got some stairs that come up on the roof, and I was disappointed I couldn't quite get the tent structure over the stairs to shade them. I decided to live with it rather than rebuild. Got our last guard station here, and they keep an eye on the entrance to the town hall and basically do their best to wave people off and tell them, you know, you don't need to bother going in there. We've got the treasure right here in our town. You should come and pay us some money to look at it. Our last little shop over here is built inside what used to be a small engine repair store, and just another junk shop, although I kind of like this one. I didn't use the grocery store shelves like I use in a lot of my junk shops, and it just has a slightly different vibe to it. The owner lives back over in this little room over here. It's a compact space. I mean, you can see that. Oh, come on. There we go. You can see that you have to close the door to be able to get to the bookshelf, but it's got everything that a person needs to be able to live comfortably. And that mat there is the actual shop. That's one of the mods that I use, is that you can assign someone to be a vendor and they'll just stand in any spot that you put that mat on. So I feel like I've probably teased it maybe too much, but let's talk a little bit about the gallery. So when the founder of the town found the treasure of Jamaica Plain, he was of course very disappointed, but he was a crafty person who had snuck his way past the security, and so when he came back out, he snuck back past him again. Only carried a couple artifacts with him. He carried a baseball bat because it looked like a decent club, and he carried an American flag that he found down there. So even though he was disappointed, he's an entrepreneurial guy, and he'd also found an old art gallery. And what he decided to do was move the paintings here and tell a lie. And the lie that he told was that the treasure of Jamaica Plain was all these paintings. And although they have no intrinsic value for people in the Wasteland, they can at least understand why people in the back when would have would have seen these as something that it was valuable and worth calling a treasure. So for the low price of 25 caps, he will give you the art appreciation tour, which takes you through his collection of paintings. Although there are some spots that look a little weird. Like, it really looks like there ought to be a painting there. and maybe should be what there. So it's a little puzzling, and he did go ahead and put the two things that he did carry out from his adventure in the town hall basement over here. He thought that baseball bat was nice, but really needed to kind of jazz it up and put some chains on it and give it a little extra oomph. During the tour, he will generally bring people out here and let them have a sit and maybe drink a beer or two while he just kind of spins them a yarn about how he destroyed all the security instead of sneaking past it. But really, the heart of the art appreciation tour is up here, because really this is not so much an art gallery as it is a shooting gallery. There's some guns here that you can rent. The minigun costs a little extra, but totally worth it. There's a weapon crafting station where you can work on your own weapon, and while the owner maintains his own. Got a range safety officer here just to kind of keep you in line if you look like you might be getting ready to try something stupid with one of your rented guns. There was a painting back here, but there's a track light for it and everything. But really, what the owner's been doing with these paintings and what that 25 caps is really for is to come over here so that you can take some pot shots at some old world art and kind of take your frustration out at just how bad the whole thing was with how everyone had all these great hopes about what they were going to find at Jamaica Plain, and it really ended up being in a conventional sense worthless. But really, the lie that the founder told, that he had found this treasure and that it had value, ultimately ended up becoming the truth, because it became a source of income for him and really for the rest of the town, with all the other associated businesses that have sprung up around the gallery here. So there we go. That's the story of Jamaica Plain. If you liked what you saw, do me a big favor and hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, I do other settlement tours, but I also do tutorials. I did one on how to do remote control power and turn stuff on and off from clear across your settlement. If that tickles your fancy, be sure and subscribe. If you didn't like, would appreciate it if you'd tell me why down in the comments so that I can try and do it better next time. In the meantime, my name is Nacho Bidness, and it's a great big wasteland out there. Let's go have fun in it.